What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Silencing Podcast. It's your host, Adam Tatunji, and today I'm sitting with the man, Scott. Thank you so much for hopping on, Scott. We appreciate you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. So why don't you kind of spend the next, a little bit of time just explaining to the audience a little bit about yourself and let us know what, why we should listen to the next 10, 15 minutes, basically, of this episode.
Sure. So, Scott Checkoway, I'm the CIO of Dental Exchange. We are the leading dental revenue care management system in the country. So if you go to the dentist and you get checked for eligibility and or dealing with payments, then chances are you are working through us in some way, shape, or form. So about me, I 30 plus years in IT, the last 25 in IT leadership, and the last 20 in healthcare IT, and then the last 6+ as a CIO in healthcare. So I've been in both small and very large organizations. So my tenure as CIO has been in a place called Medi Analytics, which was a big data analytics shop, with One Home and Humana, so a Fortune 40 company, and now with Dental Exchange. I've experienced both the big and the small, and have the realm and wealth of experience based upon my 30 plus years to really understand where IT has been and where we're going moving forward.
Nice, nice. And so, from your perspective in your world of cybersecurity, what do you see the biggest issues are arising these days?
The biggest issue that I see is just becoming a much more complex marketplace. It used to be for ransomware, for instance, which was something that really took a breadth of experience, expertise, and finesse to really get ransomware into an organization. Now you have things as ransomware as a service, where you can literally on the dark web, and if somebody who wants to be malicious there's actual dark web call centers, contact centers, where people can actually call in and honor among thieves. They can actually profit share between them to say, hey, I want to, I'll give you some money, and you go ahead and create the ransomware and attack this, and then they share the profits. So it's become an aspect where you don't need the expertise, you don't need the deep coding experience. There are contact centers where you can just contact and say, I want to do this, and let's figure out how to make it work. And so it's become this aspect of in the dark web and the underground areas that they can just attack whoever they want based upon just how we would call a call center and ask for help. So we have to be even more vigilant nowadays.
So is there any way you can stay off of that hit list, or do you feel like everyone's on that hit list?
I think anybody's on the hit list. It's a matter of how do you stay protected, and it's really a mix of having the right tools, having the right processes, and making sure your people are educated. It's at the end of the day, it's all about the human being too. You can have all the best tools, you can have all the best processes, but if your people don't have the knowledge and education to go with all of that, then look at it as a triangle. You're still missing a piece of that triangle, because you could have the best antivirus software out there. You could have all the checklists and processes and documentation, but if your people still click on something that they shouldn't click on, now you're still dealing with something that regardless of everything else that you had in place, you're still having to remediate. So, for instance, at Dental Exchange, we really go through a constant, consistent vigilance with our users right from the day that they're onboarded, that security is paramount here. We can't be the next Change Healthcare who suffered a ransomware incident, and we won't be. So it's really about making sure everybody's educated, everybody thinks about what they click on. I talk about taking a breath and taking a step back before you click on anything. Really think about it. And we test our users all the time, and we educate based upon that testing, and we talk about it in our all hands. And so all the way from our CEO down, it's that important to us that security is paramount. Our
So
patient data is paramount.
For sure, for sure. No, I hear you on that. So from like your perspective, like, do you feel like you probably, talk to other security guys, is there anything that like when you're in those conversations that kind of like triggers you? You're like, why are we viewing it that way? That's wrong, or why is that even a thing?
Well, just the sheer fact of people not keeping their systems updated,
Mm,
not having, the simple, it's really the simple things. When I hear about groups that are like, we've got a security program, but we're sort of loosely following it. There can be no loose following of any of this. It has to be constant diligence. You have to keep your systems updated. You have to keep your staff updated. You have to make sure that you have the right type of monitoring, and you have to have good vendor partners. You can't do this alone. It does take a village, and that village has to include good vendor partners. It has to include good employees, and it has to include good IT staff.
So, and do you think there's like a gap in the market for proper IT staff these days, or do you feel like, maybe don't?
Yeah, I feel like that yes and no. There's an aspect of there is a gap in finding the right kind of people who can do this. You can't just take an IT person out of college and say, okay, you've got all these certifications that you got out of college nowadays, and think that they have the real world experience. They have the book knowledge. And then you have to find really the people who have had these real world experiences. For instance, I've experienced a ransomware incident. I had to run a ransomware recovery. I know what it's like to be in those trenches. I've lived that nightmare, and I don't ever want to go through that again in that sense. So I live in that constant aspect of what I call healthy anxiety and healthy fear. That we should be very vigilant about everything that we click on. And so nothing against the people who are fresh out of college, but we shouldn't be hiring those people for senior level positions just because they have a certification. We need to make sure that we're hiring the people with the real world experience, and that these folks who have come out of college, who have these degrees and have all these certifications, are given that opportunity to go through real world experiences so that they can complement that with everything that they've learned. Because there is a very big difference between that book learning and that real world. How does it actually occur? And hair's on fire, and everybody's you got all of your people running around trying to figure out what to do. All the books in the world aren't going to help you when it comes to actual recovery and how do you handle that recovery, and that not everything is by the book when it comes to how these things occur.
Hmm. So if a company is like, listening to this podcast, they just hired a new IT staff, new security staff, what do you recommend for their training? Is there anything in specific that you do that you feel like can warm up and take somebody from, like average to a solid rock star?
It's really about, if they're new, if they're experienced, regardless. There's the aspect of keeping up with current technology trends. I mean, there's people like yourself who've got these consortiums of you started this whole group of being able to have people of different likes and aspects being able to talk to each other. That's huge. That's what's really needed here. It's really the conferences that are out there. There's certainly, you could look online for any sort of training. If people have the certifications, again, that's one thing, but have they gained that real world experience? And the only way to do that is be in the world, be in this world and doing it. And so there's just the aspect of starting from the beginning and rising up. And so there's certainly plethora of online training, but I really think that the best training in the world is talking with your peers, talking with others, having these consortiums of groups that can actually talk together. And that's where you learn about the emerging trends. And that's where you start to make relationships, and you develop these relationships with vendor partners. And these, especially the bigger vendor partners, they have all that wealth of experience from all of the different clients that they serve, and they see those trends and share that, and then that gives you the knowledge of what you need to do to prepare.
That's awesome. So are you like, how do you kind of stay up to date aside from like, mastermind communities? Do you read a lot? You like watch a lot of
All the time, all the time. When I'm not sitting here in front of the computer at the office, I'm reading articles, I'm attending, YouTube videos and virtual seminars, and just really trying to keep up on all of the different trends. No one person can know everything about everything in this, in this particular realm. So this is really
I
about,
think if
again, about developing that community around you, so that way, as a CIO, I rely on my staff, and I rely on my vendor partnerships like you and others to help me make sure that I'm keeping up to date. And so that's the village I've created around me, to make sure I have the smarter people around me who understand this, and thereby I am able to keep up to date because of that, on top of the reading and the stuff that I watch.
so it's really like a multi-layer approach to really making sure you're like, sharp all the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's a 24/7 thing.
That's I feel like this is one of those careers where if you want to get into it, you have to really be obsessed with it. Like you have to,
Almost, yeah, yeah.
or
A
else you
healthy
won't,
obsession.
yeah, a healthy obsession, or else you won't really like you might go far a little bit, but you won't be sustained because there's just so much that goes around here that it's like, like you said, you need people around you to keep up with everything.
It can be overwhelming for sure, and you shouldn't let it overwhelm you. That's where you use this village around you to make sure that everybody's got an expertise, and everybody's got to focus on something. So it's the situational awareness to hear things from your different vendors and partners and friends and colleagues, and the different readings, and share. And that, to me, is the wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. It's funny when you said like, "Oh, I don't know everything." I was gonna say like, "Yeah, if you did, you probably wouldn't be on this call." I'd be like, on the beach somewhere, be like, "Yeah, I'm good, man." So from, your perspective now being in this industry for quite a while, where do you see advancements of technology taking the world of security in the future?
If I were to pontificate, one of the things I've read about is, quantum computing. And it's still very conceptual. There's very little about it. But if you think about what that could mean, it's just like how the internet exploded on the scene. Quantum computing could be the same thing. From a security level, it could mean the aspect of unbreakable security. Conversely, it could mean the aspect of breaking every security mechanism that you have. So there is a good and a bad there. I mean, the quantum internet is stuff that I've started to read about. It's all conceptual. There's nothing in, it's all theory. But the aspect, what caught me when I was reading about it, was this whole aspect of security. Like the good, if I take the optimistic approach and say, man, this thing could make it so that security is just unbreakable. At least from the aspect of what has been at least pontificated out there. So I would love to see something like that, where we could come back to being a secure society, but not sure that that's ever feasible, or that's really a reality. It's my utopia, but it's certainly, I don't think, a reality in our time. But we've come so far so fast. The biggest thing for me is we should remember the human beings that we are prone to errors and mistakes. And so it's going to be that it really just comes back to me taking the breath, taking the step back. I preach very much about being deliberate in your actions and being deliberate in what you do. And so we could have all the best technology in the world. We still have to make sure that we take the steps to utilize and handle things appropriately.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting because we live in a world that, and there has to be for good to exist, it has to be bad. For bad to exist, it has to be good. There's no, as much as we'd like to live in a utopia world, it doesn't exist.
Yep. Yep.
So like it's like technology, as much as we love it, the more it advances, the more it opens up, gaps for leaks of privacy. And to be honest, people say like we let go of our privacy years ago. Like that's a long gone situation. The fact that there's certain people that are still thinking that, oh, my privacy is still intact is like hilarious to me because anybody with a malicious intent can find basically anything about you. So
Well, just look, pretty much it's been thought that every person on, especially in the United States, if not around the planet, has had some sort of breach of their data. you
Yeah.
know? So if you think about that, yeah, your privacy is gone, you know? Just recently, social security numbers, pretty much everybody's social security number has been hacked now.
That's crazy.
Uh, And so there is no aspect of society. It's more of an aspect now of how do you protect yourself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, just being proactive about it. Scott, I appreciate you, man. Where can people find you online and kind of get to know you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn, of course, and I'm through Dental Exchange, www.dentalexchange.com. You can reach me at scheckoway@dentalexchange.com, and I would love to be able to have conversations with anybody.
Nice. Scott, I appreciate you for hopping on. And for everybody that's listening, if you guys enjoyed, as always, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. All right. Peace.